When you're tired of relationships, try a romance. Let's get into it. Back to my channel. Hope you're all doing well out there. Today we're going to talk about a romance, but before we talk about that romance, do me a favor, like, comment, subscribe. Join me here. I would appreciate that. Today we're going to talk about that film right there, True Romance. I went over with my buddy Dale _A from the Bat and Spider podcast on Saturday night to do a movie night, and he had never seen True Romance, so I picked up this 4K from Arrow Video, which, by the way, the transfer is spectacular. It's loaded with special features. There's lobby cards. It's a glorious set. I haven't got to dive through everything yet, but if you're a fan of this film, it's definitely worth picking up. And you can get it on Amazon. I think it's around $32. But yes, that set kicks ass. He had never seen it, and I said, okay, let's do this. He was excited to watch it because he heard other folks talking about it on Discord and whatnot. And check out the Bat and Spider Boys. Those guys are great. I always mention that whenever I bring them up. So make sure to check them out wherever you get your podcasts. True Romance was a script written by Quentin Tarantino. And after Reservoir Dogs, Tarantino sold the script. It was actually a 500-page script that he'd done with Roger Avery. They made it up into two films. This film, True Romance, which Quentin Tarantino considers the most autobiographical, can't talk, script that he's ever written, and then Natural Born Killers, which was also sold off because Oliver Stone directed that film. Well, Tony Scott did this film, and this film dropped on September 10th of 1993. It's rated R, it's an hour and 59 minutes long, had a budget of $13 million, and sadly, upon release, only made $13 million back, but it's gone on to become a cult classic in years since it's been released. Now, we have an amazing cast here that Tony Scott put together for this film. We got Christian Slater as our main lead, Clarence, along with Patricia Arquette, who plays Alabama. We got the great Dennis Hopper playing Cliff, who is Clarence's father. We got Val Kilmer playing the mentor, or Elvis. They didn't want to put Elvis in the credits because of just legal things, so they just call him the mentor, although he's obviously Elvis when you see him show up in the film. Although you never get a good look at Val Kilmer's face, but he sounds awesome in this film. And the great Gary Oldman is in here as a pimp drug dealer, and he gives a great performance. We got Brad Pitt in here as the stoner Floyd. We got Christopher Walken being evil as can be in this film, in a great scene. We'll talk about that. We also got Sam Jackson, James Gandolfini, Chris Penn, Tom Sizemore. It goes on and on. Bronson Pinchow's in this film. Amazing cast. And this movie is just like the title. It's called True Romance, and it is about a romance. We meet Clarence right in the beginning of the movie, and he's going to the movies to see Sonny Chiba double feature. And this woman comes by and dumps popcorn on him by accident. They end up striking up a conversation, and they go out for pie after the movie. They go back to Clarence's apartment. They end up sleeping together. Alabama explains to him that his boss she's a call girl. She's only been a call girl for 4 days, I believe she says in the film. His boss actually paid to have her meet him at the theater and act like they just happened to meet, because his boss felt a little sorry for it. It was his birthday. He felt sorry for him because Clarence spends a lot of time by himself, and he knew where Clarence was going to be that night for his birthday because he always goes to the movies for his birthday. And they hit it off. She finds out that Clarence works at the comic book store, and he's into comics. He likes kung fu movies. He's a big Elvis fan. And after a one-night stand, she comes clean and tells him all this, and they end up getting married, and they commit to each other that they'll stay by each other's side through anything. And this is where our troubles start, because Alabama lets it out that she works for this pimp who got rough with one of the girls, and Clarence takes this person. Like, you can see his demeanor change, and he wants to go get her stuff from Gary Oldman's pimp character, and she tells him the address, and he goes there, and this scene is amazing as Gary Oldman, we see Samuel L. Jackson in a brief scene before Gary Oldman blows him away with a pump-action shotgun. Gary Oldman is almost unrecognizable in this film. If you didn't see his name in the credits, you might not even pick us up. This is him. He has dreadlocks, scars on his face, teeth are all capped with gold. His one eye is all white. And the way he's dressed, the way he's talking, you would never guess it's Gary Oldman. And from the research I've done, and he came to set dressed like that. Like, that's how he wanted to be perceived on film. And Tony Scott said, this is awesome, and ran with it and let Gary Oldman do his thing. And that's why Gary Oldman's one of the best actors of all time, because he's awesome, and he's awesome here. He ends up killing Gary Oldman's pimp character and his right-hand man, and makes off with a bunch of cocaine, which causes further problems. Goes to his dad, asks him if his dad's an ex-cop, is a security guard now, we're living in a trailer down by the railroad tracks in Detroit. He asked his dad to find out if the cops are on to him in Alabama. He's planning on leaving town. His father helps him out, tells him the cops aren't looking for, they think it's a drug thing, and they leave town for LA. But this is where we get one of the best scenes of the whole freaking movie. Christopher Walken's an enforcer for the mob in Detroit, who Clarence just stole their coke from Gary Oldman's pimp character, and they're not happy, and they want to know where the hell Clarence is because they have to talk to him. And we get this scene with Dennis Hopper in one chair, Christopher Walken in another, with these goons standing around Dennis Hopper's character, and they just go back and forth, and it's a great scene. Not only is Christopher Walken absolutely terrifying, he turns it on at one point as he's giving this speech to Dennis Hopper's character, and he's frightening as can be, and he's intimidating, but then Dennis Hopper switches too, and he starts giving it right back at him. And it's a great scene of them just butting heads. And then they end up killing Clarence's dad. And then we're on to Clarence in Alabama, going to California, meet up with one of Clarence's friends that he grew up with, who's trying to be an actor in California. And he's trying to unload this coke to this big-time movie producer, Lee Donowitz, who Tony Scott has said before he passed away that was a portrayal of Joel Silver, because Tony Scott was coming off of The Last Boy Scout, where Joel Silver was a producer, and Tony Scott said it was one of his worst experiences ever. So he asked the actor to he didn't tell the actor. The actor didn't realize at first, but he said, yeah, I tried to have the actor act like Joel Silver, and he kind of pulled it off. Really, he didn't say Joel Silver was a coke dealer or anything, but it was a portrayal of Joel Silver. And the guy that plays Lee Donowitz is fantastic. And Bronson Pinchot's character who works for this producer, gets caught by the cops with coke all over him, and his girl that was just giving him something in a car. I think you can get my drift. And then we end up with this meetup at the hotel. The cops are involved, trying to catch this producer buying this coke so they can make a name for themselves. We have Clarence, we have all these armed bodyguards, and the mob knows where Clarence is, and those goons are showing up armed to the teeth. And what we get is this Mexican standoff in this fancy Beverly Hills hotel room, and chaos ensues. People get shot and killed. Everybody dies pretty much in this scene, except for, thank goodness, Clarence in Alabama. They make it away and go to Mexico, where she gets pregnant, they have a son, and that's the end of True Romance. This movie did not do very well upon release. Obviously, it was a $13 million budget, only made $13 million. But what a great film. I saw this in the early 2000s. My wife, we were only dating at the time, rented this from the store, from the video store, not knowing anything about it. Back then, it wasn't like now where you could find out anything about a movie on the internet. Back then, it's just like going to the video store, you might find something that catches your fancy because of the title or the box cover art. I mean, I got sucked in when I was a kid just by many box cover arts, and the movie ended up sucking ass. But we saw this, and my wife and I rented it, and we went home and we watched it, and I've always loved this ever since. I had it on DVD, I had it on Blu-ray, now I have that spectacular 4K right there. Always loved this film. It's so well acted. Yes, it's their romance. They do have a strong romance in the beginning of the film. They're such impulsive young people that they just jump headfirst into this marriage, and they take off for LA after Clarence kills his pimp, and the sky's the limit for them. They don't know what they're doing. Clarence isn't a bad person per se. Obviously, he has some issues because Elvis talks to him when he's in the bathroom. There's two scenes in the movie where Elvis is giving him a pep talk in the bathroom, which is played by Val Kilmer. In spectacular scenes, don't get me wrong, but it does hint that maybe Clarence is a little fuckered in the head a little bit, but we were rooting for Clarence. We don't want him in Alabama to die. And actually, in the original script, Tarantino's script, they did die in the script. And there's even a deleted scene on that disc where they filmed where Clarence died. But Tony Scott said he couldn't kill these kids. He liked them too much. And he did. In context of the movie, it made more sense. The deleted scene, if you want to watch the deleted ending, we watched it on Saturday night. And I never watched it before. The ending, the way the movie ends now is perfect, considering where our characters come from and their struggles and where they end up. It's a more truer ending, feels like the right ending. I know what Tarantino was going for, more like the downer kind of ending, one of them, But the ending, the way it ends now, is the better ending. Tony Scott was right with his instincts to end it the way he ended up ending it. It's just a fantastic movie. It's insane as shit. I mean, you have this romance, and then once Clarence goes to see Gary Oldman's character, ends up killing him, the insane stuff just happens, and it continues through the rest of the film. Because after that point, we spent a nice little chunk with them, Alabama and Clarence, and then once he kills Drexel at his apartment, the rest of the film is just chaos until the end, till that spectacular shootout in a hotel room, which Tony Scott does so well. It's a beautifully shot, stylized film by Tony Scott. It's marvelously acted. I mean, there's people doing that scene with Dennis Hopper and Christopher Walken. It's amazing. The hotel scene at the end is incredible. And then just the little character interactions, like with Bronson Pinchot's character and Clarence and Alabama. And then the fight scene between Alabama and James Gandolfini's character in this hotel room. It took him 5 days to shoot that fight. And it is brutal. And it's probably the darkest scene in the whole movie because James Gandolfini just beats the shit out of Alabama. And it's brutal, but in context of the movie, it makes sense. And like I said, I can't gush about this movie enough. It's amazing. If you've never seen this movie, check it out. It's just fantastic. Now, this was, I said at the beginning about this was a part of a much larger script, and they pieced it off, and Tarantino sold it to Tony Scott, who went and made this film. This film, even though it's not directed by Quentin Tarantino, is very much in Quentin Tarantino's universe of films. Lee Donowitz, the producer in this film, is considered the grandson of Donnie Donowitz from Inglourious Bastards. And in Reservoir Dogs, Mr. White says about working with Alabama, that's a reference to the character in this film. Tarantino did that a lot back then. Seeing Val Kilmer only shot for 2 days. He actually wanted to be Clarence. He actually wanted to be that role, but Tony Scott wanted him to be Elvis, and Val Kilmer was more than happy to do it. And good for Val Kilmer for taking on that role. You don't really get a good look at his face. Like, again, you wouldn't even really know it was Val Kilmer if you didn't see his name in the titles and in his voice. Even though he sounds pretty good as Elvis, if you listen closely, it sounds like Val Kilmer, but he's doing a really good job of trying to mimic himself as Elvis. This is just a great R-rated, romantic, thriller action film. It's a mishmash of different genres, which Tarantino does very often. It's just a great movie. It really is. And Tarantino is actually very happy with this movie. He said, you know, when I sold it off, Tony Scott by that point was a big time director. He was coming off Top Gun, Days of Thunder, Last Boy Scout, and Beverly Hills Cop 2, which was a huge hit. And Tarantino said, he goes, look, it wasn't the way I would have shot it, but as it is, Tarantino said he's very happy with the finished film, and he actually understands why Tony Scott ended the film the way he did it instead of doing it the way it was originally scripted. But what a great film. You could tell it's Tarantino's dialogue. The actors are a game here. It's a great cast. It's great. It's awesomely directed by Tony Scott. Looks beautiful, very stylized like Tony Scott would direct a film. And when the action does hit, it's very R-rated and it's spectacular. So yes, at the end of the day, True Romance, which I highly recommend if you've never seen it, I would give it a 9.75 out of 10. I love this film that much. Yes, 9.75 out of 10 for True Romance. Have you ever seen this film? Leave a comment down below, let me know. Hit the thumbs up, hit the subscribe button, share this video, I would appreciate that. This box set right here is foreshadowing for what's coming up. I'm going to be doing Edge of the Axe and Sleepaway Camp 2 and 3 to finish off my little summer camp slasher series. And then we're going to move on to other horror films because Halloween's coming, baby, and I can't goddamn wait. But until then, bye.